everybody, and welcome back to Musings by Nikki. Today I am going to be making some of these. They are fold out envelopes, and I'm making them out of, oh, that guy wants to fall out. I'm making them out of a full sheet of 12 by 12 paper, and then they have this scrappy pocket on the front like so, and then I've got another one in here as well. And you can tell where they are because they've got the little dangles that fold out on the bottom here. So then this one, here's where it attaches, and then we open it up and it opens up like so. And there's a scrappy pocket on the front, and then there's some scrappy tags inside of that. So we are going to make a few of those. This is my single signature nature journal that I have gone through and decorated. You can see all the yummy goodness on the sides. It's clearly not attached yet, but I have made a bunch of pockets and just done some, collage work and just, made some scrappy stuff. I did make myself off camera. I made myself a stack. Let me set this over here. I made myself a stack of embossed, so stamped and embossed leaves. So can you see how they're kind of shiny? Yeah. So I made a whole bunch of them, and then I, grunged them up and tore them and inked them. So I've got a bunch of those. And anyway, let's make some envelopes. So I have, I have 4 signatures, so it's going to be like 3 or 4 signature journal, depending on how grungy and thick and juicy they get. But I have got these signatures over here set up for the next part of the journal, and they all need to be sewn and decorated and made pockets and tags for and such. So in the next two envelopes, in the next 2 videos, I'm going to make 2 different styles of envelopes to put in our grungy nature journals. So these are just some random pieces of 12 by 12 that I had in my stash. And I could not, I know they all come from the same tablet paper pad, but I couldn't tell you what it is because I'm sure long ago, I have 2 of those, I'm sure long ago I tore the cover and the back off to use them in soft cover journals. So I did, because these though have a bright white background, I went through and took it down by doing some stenciling, some spraying, and so some of them have more, some coffee staining and stuff. This is going to end up on the inside, but it's also going to be, we're going to use a piece of it on the outside, as well as to throw the whatever little few bits and pieces that we have left will go into my fantastic scrap bin that I've got going on here too. So let's start. We'll just start with this one since it's on top. That's a good way to decide. And now this all comes out of one piece of 12 by 12. So like I said, this is going to be the inside of our envelope. And because my signatures are like 5 3/4, 5 1/2, 5 3/4 on the farthest outside, I don't want my pocket, my flip out envelope, to be any wider than that. Like, I don't want to make a 6-inch pocket and then have it sticking out too far. Although with this particular journal it won't matter so much because there's going to be all kinds of, gunk and stuff hanging on the outside. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to go with a 5-inch pocket. So I apologize now. It is suddenly a busy week. So I'm going to fold over. I'm going to start with the outside, or with the inside facing me, the back side, whatever. And I'm using my measurements right down here on my glass mat. But you can kind of use a ruler or whatever. It just happens to be handy for me to have the glass mat right there. Okay. And then I'm going to score that down. So I have made a fold. So this is about 5 inches wide right here. And then this is going to end up being our hinge. So we're going to just fold that over along the entire edge here. Kind of like you're making a giant envelope this way, right? Except that's not the direction we're going. This is going to be kind of a, well, you can make this really any height that you want to. Okay, so now that's our hinge, and eventually I'm going to tear some of that off. But you could use, and I'll show you, you could use this as like a big tuck spot on the page, but opposite it. On the I was looking for the word for that. Okay, so now's where you decide. So we're going to eventually sew around this to make the pocket itself. And you get to decide how tall do you want your envelope. So you could make it short, right? You could make it all the way the height of the page. I think I'm going to do some various sizes because I'm going to make several of these. Because I have, like I said, I have 4 signatures, so I think I'd like to make one for each signature. So I'm going to make this one a bit taller. And what you're cutting to is going to include the fold over flap. So if you think you want it this tall, then you have to include another couple of inches like this for the flap, and that will make more sense in a second. So I'm going to go about there, and I'm going to cut it off, and then we can get rid of that. And keep your scrappy piece because we are going to use that in a second. And now we've got this all folded. And since my envelope is going in this direction, this is going to be the bottom of mine. So I'm going to now fold over here how far I want the flap to go. So I'm going to say this is like a couple inches. This looks like by the time I fold that down, it'll be like 1 3/4 inches. Oof. Okay, so now we have the flap, but I only want this part of the flap. I don't want this part, and I don't need this part over here because that's where the hinge is going to stop. So we've got our fold there and we've got our fold there. So we're going to unfold, and you should be able to see where your folds are. You might not be able to see this that well on camera, but I'm going to cut out this square right here. You know what? I wonder if this will help if I take a pencil and kind of draw in, just for the sake of showing you guys. Okay, let's see if that helped at all. Whoops. So this is my fold for my, right? I want to keep this piece. I want to get rid of this piece, and I want to get rid of this little square over here. So I'm going to just cut those out right along the folds. And of course we're going to keep those little scraps and throw them in our scrap bin of, you know, grungy scraps, because I have definitely grungified them now and they will look good as collage fodder. So those are going in. So now you should have a shape like this. So again, we've got our envelope, our hinge, and then here's the cover that comes down over the top. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little bit more of like a flap here. So I'm going to just cut off a chunk like that size. And then I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to go for about that same size, but I'm not going to try and hold it like that because that would be crazy. So I'm just going to go for about the same size. And I got pretty close. Those are too small. Those can go in the garbage. All right. And then because I'm going to sew around this and do all kinds of things to it, I want to make sure that my fold has room to go over and actually stay shut. So I'm going to trim this edge down just slightly. And now this is just depending on how precisely you've been folding and stuff, you might not need to do that. But I just want to remove some bulk and make sure that I've got plenty of space there. And then I'm also going to give myself, this is my 2.5 inch circle punch, and I'm going to give myself kind of like a big thumb hole. So I'm eyeballing center-ish. There we go. So far we've got a flap down, right? And then it'll hinge on this thing once we get it all together. Cool. Now, at some point I'm going to sew all the way around this. I'll sew around this, but let's create some big grungy pocket thing for the front. So to do that, I'm going to take this extra piece we cut off, and I know that this middle section is about the size of this. So I'm going to tear it down. All right, and these pieces go in the scrap bin. And then here's my pocket, and I'm going to ink it just a little bit. And then I'm going to get my scraps and maybe one of those leaves that I stamped and embossed. And of course you don't have to use this paper, but I just like the fact that it's already been, you know, ripped up, torn up, scrapped, or I mean that it's coming out of the same piece. That helps too. So here's kind of a faded one that was a very light embossing powder. And then let's go to the scrap bin and find some things. I've got to get some of the old scraps on top because now I just have a bunch of this on top. I like this, so let's do some music paper. And I'm just trying to kind of set up a scrappy pocket here. I just want some stuff going on. Let's see. No, that's too close. Oh, here's a piece of bright red. Let's do a piece of that. But I need to get rid of some of those bright white edges there, so I'm gonna go this way. And then I think I'm going to throw like a piece of cheesecloth in over here. And I happen to have some pieces that I've been working with. My hands are all inky because I've been inking and spraying and playing in the dyes and inks this morning. There, okay. So now what I'm going to do is take this pocket, move this around a little more, zhuzh it. And then I'm going to take this over and I'm going to sew around the leaf, and I'll be right back. Here is my leaf sewn on. I moved the cheesecloth over here because I moved the leaf down a little bit. So now I have got a scrappy pocket, and I'm not going to sew this on yet because as I sew around the entire envelope, it will, you know, by default attach this onto the envelope. I am going to go ahead and ink around all of this since I'm doing a super inky project here, and I just want to make sure everything is nice and grungy and inky. And so let's get that done. My hands don't want to work so great today, and that is partially my fault because my youngest daughter, Joy, is like totally into sports, and volleyball, fall volleyball, I know I've said this in my last few videos, starts next Monday, so almost just shy of a week from now. And we've been over to the school gym every single day, almost, save the weekends, drilling, doing running drills with her, because volleyball is like her jam. so we've been over there running drills, and so I've been serving balls and hitting balls and throwing balls up and bending over to pick up the balls. I just said balls a lot of times. Anyway, we've been over there doing volleyball, and it's making my fingers, my middle fingers in particular, just don't want to. Oh, and then we were out moving, we had some gravel delivered, and so we were out moving wood pile around so that it wouldn't interfere. So then I hurt myself. That didn't help either. None of what I've done helped in the last few days. Okay, so we've got our pocket done, and then I'm going to put, so I am going to put a punch, whatchamacallit, grommet through the top, and I don't even care what color it is because we're doing grungy. And then I need a, and I don't even care if they match. I need a windy guy closure. So I'm going to see if I can fit one more out of this Tim Holtz paper. I bet I can. Yeah. And I'm doing this a thin version here because I don't, you know, I'm already going to bulk this journal up with all kinds of paper and stuff. So I'm not going to try and make this be too thick. And let's see, which side do I like better? Probably that one. So I'm going to go about the center and poke a hole. And then while I've got it on my awl, I am going to, so it's going to go this way. So I'm going to give it just kind of a slight round up. And that's just going to be, so I'm putting my thumbs in the middle and kind of pulling the sides up to give it some dimension. And that's just going to make it easier to twist because I'm not putting a spacer in there. So now I'm going to go about center-ish, you know, this way, and however low you want to go. You could put it way up here and just wind it around, or you can put it way down here. I like the longer thing for some reason. So I'm going to poke through, but only this layer, not the front. So let's move that out of the way so I don't end up poking everything. And then I'm going to put my paper fastener through, my brad. And we'll open that up on the inside. And I'm going to make sure that's pushed down as best I can because you don't want your paper to catch on that. If you want to, you can. Sometimes I glue a little piece of paper over that. Sometimes I put a little piece of washi over that to protect it. And now I'm just going to kind of ruffle up these edges here just slightly again, just to kind of give it a little bit of a lift and some dimension to get that string around. Now we need somewhere to attach the string up top. So I'm going to punch a hole up here. And then I'm going to put my grommet through, and if my hands will work with me. There we go. My hands worked with me. So now I have got a place where I can thread my string, and that'll wind down here. And I've got my pocket made for the front. And so now what I need to do is I'm going to sew around this. Now make sure you don't sew across here because, you know, if you're sewing with it this way, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to sew with it this way so I can make sure I'm catching the pocket. Make sure you don't think, oh, I'll just sew around the whole thing, because I've done that, guys. Learn from my mistake, because you sew this shut. So don't be like me. So instead, what I do is sew it like this, and I go around the flap and then come down and go around the pocket and back up. And then sometimes I go around the flap a couple times, but I don't go across here. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to go do that, and then I will be right back. All right, so I sewed around the top of the pocket Here's where you hit the rivet and you have to remember to take your foot up, but that's okay because I'm doing messy stitching and sewing. I've got my pocket officially attached. I've sewn around a couple of sloppy times, and that also creates this large pocket back here. And now the final touch is we just need, so in order to kind of, you know, hold it down, or to have something, not hold it down, to have something fun dangling from the bottom, I've just brought out some of my charms, and I think maybe we'll go with this bright gold little pine cone to dangle off of this one. And I forgot to bring some strings. Let me grab some. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy through here. There we go. And I'm going to tie it on and leave a big tail, and I tie like 3 or 4 knots because, again, I'm not trying to look precise here. I'm just trying to look kind of grungy and rustic. So I'm just tying several knots, and I kind of like that the end that as I was trying to get it through there, I kind of frayed the end of it. So I'm cool with that too. Okay, and now to kind of gauge how much I want of the string, I'm going to wrap it around here a few times. And then I want it long enough that it dangles below here, just because then it's, you know, kind of added fun. And then I'm going to go just up to this and then give myself some room to make a knot and leave a tail. So with it wound on there, I'm going to put it through here and then just try to tie some knots. Okay, and now I'm going to tie that several times. And it doesn't have to be perfectly tight because, you know, you can tighten it a little. It's just, this is just my way of trying to make sure that I get about the length I want. Oh my goodness, fingers work with me. Okay, and now I'm going to leave that long tail because I don't mind it at all. And now I have this kind of policy envelope type thing with a long dangle. I still have my flap here that I can choose to do whatever I want to with. And then let's grab a tag out of my pile of tags that I made. So this little raccoon guy is cute, so we'll stick him in there. Adorbs. Okay, now I'm going to grab my signature back again, and this one I made to fold on this side. You can make it to fold on the other side if you want. I'll do that with the next one. But like, so let's say I want him right on this front corner, right on that front page. How cute is that? So it will, you know, I'll attach it and it'll flip out here. And so this is where I was talking about, you can attach this however you want to. Most of the time I just kind of tear this down and leave myself some room to glue here, but you could glue or stitch across the top here and across the bottom, of course with the envelope out like this. If you stitch, you could stitch there, down, and over, making sure that you could still fold it in. And that way it could become a tuck spot as well. So you could tuck things in, right? Like so. You could tuck things in to that tuck spot if you want. However, I am going to choose to tear this down. So I tear just about half of it off. Scrap pin. And then I'm going to ink this. And I don't have to worry about the back side because that's going to be attached. And let me grab my glue. and I'm going to glue and then I'm going to line it up here and fold it over. I'm going to take the rest of the signature out for a second just to make this a little easier. And you want to glue it like that, folded over, because if I were to glue it flat like this, I can't guarantee that I'll line up the hinge right, and then it might not fold right, and then you get all kinds of just wonkiness happening. So I always just wrap it around. Plus that means you know you're getting enough clearance, kind of. Now I've glued this on, and at some point I might go and sew some stuff back onto that hinge just to, like, you know, jazz it up even further. But for right now, this is where I'm going to stop. And then it opens up, and of course we've got our envelope here, and that'll line up with the rest of the signature so nicely. Okay, so that one, of course, like I said, had a flap that goes in that direction. Let's go with a flap in the other direction. Let me grab some paper here. Okay, so that one we folded like this and had the hinge on this side, right? If we want to have the hinge on this side, then, you know, so it folds around the page this way. I hope that makes sense. To reverse the hinge, instead of folding it this way to make our envelope, we're going to fold it over to the left. So again, I'm going to look down here and try to make it no wider than 5 inches, or just slightly over 5 inches at the most. And then oh my gosh, my hand does not want to work. All right, so now we've got the fold, and we're going to fold this flap over this way. So we've got our big kind of like 3-way fold sandwich tube thing, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to cut it down. And remember, we sew along the bottom, and so we want to gauge how tall we want the envelope. So I'm going to say if I want my envelope that tall, then I'm going to go another couple inches. This one I'm going to make a little shorter. Save that for the pocket. And then we're going to fold over the top to give us our flap. And make that crease nice and strong. This is thick paper. All right, now I'm going to do the cutting out thing again. So I'm going to cut out this side. And then I'm going to just cut my little extra right off of there. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of an angle as I go down there. And then across. To the scrap bin. Okay. Now I've got my envelope and my fold. I am going to, again, trim myself a little bit of top here. I mean, and I'm talking like a 1/16 of an inch. I am really not taking much off. Just enough to get rid of bulk once I've added stitching and all that stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and, if I can, there we go. Give myself a notch. And you want to make sure that you don't notch down too far, because then this flap won't cover it, right? So I'm just, if you're going to do this, I'm just giving myself a small notch. Because see, if I'm saying, if you notch down too far, then this flap, you'll see the notch below it. So that's all. I'm going to go ahead and ink around this. I will fast forward because you don't need to watch me ink. All right, so I have got that ready to go, and now I need to make myself a pocket for the front. You don't have to put a pocket on the front. You could choose to do many other things. You could just leave it plain if you want to. I am choosing to do pockets just because I kind of like the grungy layer that it adds to the front of this envelope. Excuse me, my allergies are on 100, as usual. I think, let's see. Oh, I do have some cool like leaf cutouts too from my dad. Let me see if any of them are going to actually stand out or if they're all just going to be too, well, that one kind of does. That one kind of does. Well, I think I'm going to, you know what, I'll save those for other decorating, and I'll go with, because this orange, and let's go with an orange leaf on the front. So this is one of the stamped and embossed leaves. And then let me grab my scrappy bin and see if I can find some wonderful scrappy yumminess. To go behind this. Yep, I like how that looks. And I'm going to, again, add something. I've got a little bit of this leftover super thin, like old tissue paper that came from my friends. Okay. I like how that looks. So I'm going to go sew around the leaf. So by sewing around the leaf, it leaves the rest of this kind of loose, but it attaches it all. If you want to, you can come back and put a little dab of glue to glue stuff down, but I'm kind of cool with it the way it looks here. So I'm going to go sew around the leaf and I'll be right back. So the leaf is sewn on. And remember, I'm not going to worry about sewing this pocket on right now because it will get sewn as I go around. So now it is time to make the windy guy closure, and I ran out of that other one, but you know what? I've got this scrappy piece, and this is nice and thick, so it will work well. And I'm going to just ink the edges of that. Let's see, I like this. This side has definitely got all kinds of painty goodness on it from my scrap escapades. So I'm going to go in the middle here, middle-ish, and put that through, and then I'm going to do my little kind of fold it, bend it, I don't know, what do you call this, ease it around a little bit. And I'm gonna need one of these again, and one of these, and then let's pick middle-ish, like here-ish. Alright, and I'm going to put my brad through and open that up. I do try to put them sideways this way, because if you put it this way and you put your paper in, it will get stuck under there, whatever you're trying to put in the envelope. So if you put it sideways, it's less likely. And then I often use the back side of my awl to kind of push in the center to flatten it out a bit. And it does make it as, you know, flat as possible really. Okay, I'm gonna bend and maneuver this up and around a little more. And then I'm gonna give myself, you know, maybe what I'm gonna do is wait to put this in because it makes sewing easier. I think I'll do that. So this one doesn't matter because you avoid it for sure with your presser foot, but that one is harder. So I am gonna wait, that can go in after anyway. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my pocket on, which is the sewing around part, and I'll be right back. Sewing is done. I've created my envelope. It is not sewn shut in the back, so that's a good thing. I did want to show you one of the things that I do when you sew on paper. You know, on the front you get these nice lines, especially noticeable with black. And then here you see where there's like the punch through, so you can see this little white. Well, since I am using black soot, I lightly tap, and then I just kind of go over the edges, just very lightly over the stitching, and what it does is ink that little bit of, you know, part where it kind of comes through, just slightly. And if you do it right, if you kind of float it over the top of the stitching, then it shouldn't make, you know, big marks on your paper. On this journal, it doesn't matter. I don't care as much because I'm making a really grungy journal. Now I need to put in my thing up here. My thing. Good language skills. Okay, and we're gonna put this through. Ooh. Okay. Adorbs. Now I need a charm. So let's see, on that last one I put a little pine cone. I've got some bees and butterflies. You know what, let's do a bee. Why not? I've got several of them. And I just kind of love the way that they dangle out of the bottom of the journal. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this guy on. With my volleyball injured, stick moving injured. This weekend is a big weekend around here, in our little town of, you know, I always say it's a town of 200, but I just drove by. I was driving back from the school, whereas we go out to practice volleyball, and the sign for our town, I don't think this changed recently, not that I'm aware of, but it went from saying like 200 down to saying 155. So I don't know if we've really lost that many people, or if that's just a more accurate description of our population. But y'all, I live in a small town, and if you thought 200 sounded small, 155 is like a quarter less than that. When you only had 200 to start with, losing 50 is a big deal. So I'm not sure, but it's 200 or 155, and we are in the least populous county in Minnesota by square mileage. I don't know exactly how I'm trying to say that, but there are very few people in our county. There are very few people here in our city. So why is, oh, it's coming above. Hold on, let me get that unwound. There we go. So I've left myself a nice long tail here to dangle. And then we've got our pocket on front. Let's find another thing. So it's county fair weekend. And the county fair, even though we are in the southern part of the county, oh, this might be too tall for here, actually happens in our little city. You know what, let's go with one of these that are not, we can put a couple of little things in here. And maybe one of these tags. there, because then I can still see the orange flower there, which is kind of, I like that. So there's another one, and now let me grab the next signature, and let's find a place in here on a nice sturdy page. So now the last one had to go, you know, the hinge went over this way, and now this time it can go, the hinge goes over the opposite direction. And the lovely thing, see what I'm saying about not making it too wide? Because this is going to come, you know, virtually to the edge of my thing, but I don't want it to go too far. So when I sew my signatures, you know, I don't end up. I like how this green plays with this green, and when I open it up, I kind of get this nice color here. So I like that. And I love this flower here. So what I think I'm going to do is just barely tear on the kind of the top a little, because I want the rustic edge, but I don't necessarily know that I don't want to lose the flower. So I'm going to let the flower stay and that stay, and then I'm just going to kind of tear on the bottom a little again. And that will be, you know, then we've got a rustic tear edge. Maybe I'll try and tear a little bit in between here. Right along the edge. Okay. And I'm going to put some ink. And then let's go ahead and attach this pocket. Oh, that's cute. I love those flowers, how they go there. And they totally match with like the flowers and stuff on the kit that I am using, which by the way is Tracy Fox Fancy Forest. That's where these tags and such are coming from that I'm putting in here. And if you are interested in that, or the kits that I'm using for this current project, this Grungy Nature Journal that I'm working on, they will be listed below. This is all part of a larger design team project for Tracy. So feels good to finally be getting back to them. And this one, I'm just going to kind of center. Sometimes, if you know, you can put it a little further to the bottom or further to the top. I'm going to move the rest of my signature here. And that way I can make sure that I am folding and getting this all on there nice. Oh, my hands are dirty. And then I'm going to open up and make sure I didn't over glue and I'm not going to glue this thing shut. And kind of give it a good press. And perfect. Perfect. So now we have one that opens this way, right? And we can put stuff in there. I might not put anything in there and might just leave it for whoever ends up with this journal. They can, you know, put their own stuff in there. It'd be a great, these are nice big pockets, envelopes. So this would be a great place to stick like photos in or something like that, if you're doing memory keeping. And so I might just leave them empty. I might put a little label up here because it's kind of blank on the top there. So I think in my scrap bin, actually, I have at the very bottom some little label guys. Yep, I like a label there. So I'm going to do that. And since I don't have any cheesecloth down there, I'm going to put a piece of cheesecloth behind it. And then I think I'll be done. I'm going to make a few more of these, but I'll do them off camera and you'll see them in the final flip through. And then tomorrow or the next day, excuse me, I will be back with a different kind of journal that I'm going to make for some more, they'll either be like paper clip in or glue in, flip out type of things again. And that one's going to be fun too. So I'm going to just shut the camera off here, and then I'm going to go ahead and film that video too. And you'll have those in the next couple days here. I hope you guys are enjoying this project. I certainly am. Getting my grunge on like this, you know, Louisa Heinzel style, has been really fun. And so, let's see, I'm going to make sure that all sets in there well. And there we go. fun. That's fun. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you guys are having a wonderful morning or afternoon or evening or middle of the night, whatever time it is, on whatever side of this fantastic globe of ours that you all live on. And until I see you guys next time, take care, stay safe, stay creative, and God bless you. Bye, guys.